Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Womenstrual The Podcast. I'm your host, Candice, and this is a series of conversations about the ebbs and flows of life and a safe space to discuss periods. Today's guest is medical doctor. She is an avid traveller. She is a perinatal mental health researcher and a women's health advocate. Dr Jessica Katanga.
Hello, so lovely to be here,
I'm
Candice.
glad that you came.
Yes.
It's been about a year in the making.
honestly, but we've made it happen.
We have made it happen.
And I'm so excited for today's conversation.
Oh, likewise. How was your summer?
My summer was really good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say I didn't travel this summer, but that's a lie.
She's a traveller.
I went to Romania for the
amazing.
Therme Spa.
Oh, how was it? Out of 10?
Amazing.
Really?
10 out of 10.
The pictures
recommend.
look sensational.
Make sure you don't go on a busy day, though.
What's a busy day?
Like, don't go on the weekend.
Uh-huh.
Go on, like, a weekday when it's not holiday.
Uh-huh.
And, yeah.
Oh, lovely. So did you go there just for the day? Did you fly in and come out, or were you there for a while?
No. So I went for my friend's birthday and we went there for like about 3 days.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Love that. And that's actually on my list of places to go to. And Romania seems so unassuming.
Yeah.
But when you see that spa, it's like, huh?
Yeah. And you know they're opening one in Manchester
yes,
soon. Mm-hmm.
I heard.
But it's going to be more expensive.
Of course it is. And when you think about how much it costs you to fly there, you might as well go to Romania because it's going to be more premium once it gets to Manchester.
Exactly.
That is insane. Well, I love that for you. How's the food there?
The food is like, it's okay. Yeah, it's good. It's like kind of like very homely soups, pork, potato type, celery
meat and
vibe.
Potatoes, literally.
Yeah, meat and potato. Yeah,
Yeah.
meat and 2 veg.
Okay. I'll put this far on my list, that's for sure. As a black woman going there?
Oh yeah, it's calm. It's calm. I didn't feel any microaggressions or any type of weird vibes. It passed the check for me.
Okay. Well, if it passed the check for you, I'm with it. I am with it. So let's get into your story. Could you give me a high-level summary of how you became a medical doctor?
Okay. So my journey into medicine started with the UCAS quiz.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what degree should I take when I just finished my GCSEs? And it said medicine. So then I geared my A-levels towards that, and then like my extracurricular activities.
Okay.
I volunteered at like an old people's home. That's where I discovered something called dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, wow, I want to find the cure for dementia.
Yeah.
That was
So for people that might not know what dementia is, could you explain it?
So dementia is a neurodegenerative condition that usually happens in old age.
Mm-hmm.
The most common type is Alzheimer's, and it affects somebody's memory and cognition.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so then and so then I applied for med school. I got in and I was really focused on dementia or neurology, which is like the study of the brain and spinal cord.
Okay.
And then once I started doing more and more placements, I kept on seeing mental health pop up, and you know, it was something that maybe not a lot of the doctors were that interested in, but I would always go back to the patient and ask more. And then when I did foundation training, so after you do 5 years of med school. Okay. I did an additional intercalated degree in there in psychology, psychiatry, and neuroscience.
Wow.
And then in my foundation training, so that's your first 2 years on the job.
Yeah.
I made sure to have a psychiatry placement and a neurology placement, and I really fell in love with psychiatry.
Yeah.
I took a 18-month gap to focus on my content creation, and then locum in psychiatry, so doing like agency work, and then also travel to Uganda to do that research project that we'll talk about later. And then now I'm a psychiatry trainee. Yeah.
Wow. It's a lot of learning.
It's a lot of learning.
It's a lot of study.
A lot of studying.
When you were thinking, you're not done yet.
No, because it's being a doctor is literally lifelong learning.
Yeah.
So, and even when you become a consultant, so hopefully in 6 years' time I'll be a consultant, you still need to like keep up with, because medicine is ever changing something.
It's always evolving.
So you have to show your continuous professional development.
Wow. Wow. Well, she's brains and beauty, honey.
Thank you.
She is brains and beauty. Okay. So in that time of studying medicine, was there anything that came up for you that made you think, do you know what, this is long. I don't know if I can do this anymore. Because there's a lot of studying, and obviously we all do nursery, primary school, secondary school, university, and then you went on to study even further. Is there anything in you that thought, maybe I'll go back to the drawing board and we go again with something else?
Oh, 100%. It's a long road. And there was one like proverb, you know, African parents, they love the animal proverbs.
I'm screaming.
So my mum said, a dog is pregnant for a short time, and when the dog gives birth, it doesn't make a noise. But an elephant is pregnant for ages, and once it gives birth, everybody knows.
Wow.
Mic drop.
I understand it. So essentially, be an elephant.
Yeah.
Be an elephant. Let people know that you have gone through what you have gone through.
Yeah.
To deliver what you've delivered.
It might take a long time,
Yeah,
but it will be worth it in the end.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And do you feel like that? Do you feel like it's been worth it now?
Oh, I love my job. I love my job.
It.
It's so challenging, but it's also very rewarding.
Yeah.
And I'm just a naturally curious babe anyway. So I love always learning everything new and stuff.
Yeah. So alongside the dementia piece of your study, psychiatry, what else does that involve?
Psychiatry is the medicine of mental illness. Okay. So the main things that we're seeing: schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, personality disorders, and then dementia is on the cusp of both neurology and psychiatry. Those are the main things in psychiatry.
And they're all interconnected, do you find, or do they all have very different symptoms?
They all have very different symptoms, but those are like the main ones. And then also addiction, of course.
Honestly, the mind really is such a unbelievable tool.
Honestly, it is. When it works, it works.
When it doesn't, it doesn't. And that is actually like, there's even a scripture that talks about don't be conformed to the ways of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And a lot of that piece at the end about renewing your mind is key to where some of these mental conditions come from, because you're so used to being conditioned by what's going on in your world that even in renewing how you think can be the catalyst to either moving your life forward or taking your life back.
100%. And in medicine, we think of every illness and health in a biopsychosocial way. So every illness has a biological element, a psychological element, and a social. So what you're talking about, the things around you, that's social, and then your mind, that's the psychological. And then of course there's also the biological.
Wow, it's intense. But it's amazing to have people like you who are invested in learning this, because I guess in modern day, and by modern day I mean really in like the last 10 years, discussing things to do with mental health have become less taboo. There's still it's still underlying, but it's definitely become less taboo. But having someone like you with your expertise to be able to put language, like actual factual language to what people are going through, must be so helpful. So do you actually deal with patients who are going through this stuff regularly?
100%. So with as I'm a core trainee in psychiatry at the moment, so working and training at the same time, you do that until you're a consultant. Every 6 months I switch over. So the last 6 months I was on inpatient acute male ward, and then now I'm on CAM, so that's children and adolescent mental health services. We switch over, so we get a wide breadth of all the different mental illnesses in the different ages and different genders and stuff.
Any through lines, any commonalities that you're seeing in what you've learnt so far?
Definitely. It's all the same, but it just presents differently. With children and adults, that's very different, because with children, that's just completely different, because we don't really jump to diagnoses in children because they're still developing and everything.
And what age is that? Like until 5? Till 8?
Children and adolescents, it would be all up until 18.
Okay.
So more with there's the autism and ADHD, and then that might be impacting then now when we see teenagers more low mood, and things like that. And then it's with the adults where it's more of the more serious things, or schizophrenia, bipolar.
Wow. Honestly, it blows my mind. Like, this study is so interesting to me. And in light of studying, your medical journey took you to Uganda. That was a year ago, right?
Yes, it was.
Wow, that's crazy. How does it feel a year on?
Honestly, that was, yeah, it was a year ago. This time last year, I think I was just like preparing to go off. So that was amazing. That was a once in a lifetime experience, and I don't think I realized it at the time. So only when you look back or you tell people, and you're just like, oh yeah, that side quest was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I went to go live in Uganda for like about half the year, and it was on a project. It was in collaboration with NHS Global Health Fellowships and Ministry of Health Uganda, and it was to incorporate mental health into the existing maternal health pathways. And I went there with one colleague, and we were in a rural, predominantly Muslim town, like 2 hours away from the capital of Uganda. So just everything was so different.
I can imagine. Talk me through that experience. So when you decided to go on that fellowship, what happens after that? Do you have to do additional training, or do they just like sign you off based on the expertise you already have? When you get there, what's the kind of integration process?
That's a really good question. So to get onto the fellowship, it was like an interview process, and you had to present a PowerPoint, lots of like a selection process. And then once you start, because it was people going to different people go on these fellowships to different countries. So we got some training in terms of like cultural, how can I say, like cultural competence, so that you don't go in there with like this type of like colonizer mentality of I'm going to save, you know,
because that's a real thing. And just keep what you're going to say. Because I remember I saw an interview, I think it was maybe Oprah, but I don't want to quote her because if it's not her, I want us to be on good terms. But I saw an interview with someone who's really wealthy. They went to Africa and they saw the conditions that people were living in, and then they started giving them like money or resources, or just wanting to buy everything for them. And then one person was like, it's okay, like we don't need the handout, like this is our quality of life which we love. And I think especially living in the West, it's easy to think that anyone that's not living the same type of life as you is living worse off. But the benchmark is different based on where you are. So coming in there, as you said, with like a colonizer mentality could be really detrimental to even just relationship building, cultural nuance, all that kind of stuff. So I hear it. And I think that's really great that the fellowship encourages and supports understanding that before going. And especially as a Black person, it's really easy to feel like, obviously you're skin folk, but you're not in terms of like geography and like upbringing, you're not kinfolk in the same way. So there's also could be like a little bit of like resistance around that too.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, you said it perfectly. Honestly, yes.
She said no notes. No notes. She said no notes. So yeah, when you got there, where did you live? How did that? Yeah.
So we were living in Gombe. That's the town that we were in like the hospital accommodation, and yeah, it was just so different, so much more quieter. I'll just go for walks and like walk for hours and things, and yeah, just a completely different way of life. And as you said, it's different. It's not any better. It's not any worse. And that's a big lesson that I've taken from there, is that people are so different. At the same time, people are so much the same.
And so what did your study include? So you were there for 6 months. What was that program? So say, for example, you landed on a Saturday. On Monday, what happened?
Okay, so for the first 2 weeks, we spent it in Kampala, so that's the capital of Uganda, and we were in the Ministry of Health. So we went there so that we could learn what is the Uganda healthcare system like, to meet some of the stakeholders and things like that, and to understand what their goals were for this project. And then after those two, and then we had a bit of our own ideas of how we wanted to tackle the issue at hand. Then when we got to Gombe, we just first started with observation, seeing what is everything like.
So like shadowing.
Yeah, shadowing. Meeting the midwives, the doctors, the nurses, and seeing from there, canvassing some ideas from them as to what do they think we could do, talking to some of the patients, and then we kind of start with our own idea. So what we ended up doing was we used an emoji based kind of like mood scale, so every woman coming with a bit of Luganda underneath, because people had different varying levels of literacy, but everybody around the world can understand emojis.
It's true.
So we focus on the antenatal clinic, so those are the pregnant women. We would assess all of their moods, or the midwives and nurses would assess their moods, and then any of them that would score low on that scale, we would then do a full EPDS, which is the Edinburgh Postnatal Depression Scale. Let's say a globalized standard tool that you use to screen for depression.
Right.
And then those people that were scoring highly that they're likely to have depression, then we offered them same day counseling with the psychiatric nurse on site.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So with something like this, what is the ultimate goal? So like, is the goal to come up with a solution to eradicate the problems altogether? Is it to understand a little bit more about what goes on so they can deploy more support? What is the typical like end goal for something like this? Like, what is the end goal? And also, what did you want to come away from it with?
Okay, so what's the goal for the project, and then what was my personal goal? So for the project, so I was there for 6 months, but it's a 5-year project. So every 6 months there's two more people
cohorts
are going in there.
Got you.
In order for it to be sustainable and it can actually have, impacting lasting change. And the goal, I guess, is to, as I said, so to incorporate mental health into the existing maternal health pathways. Pregnancy is something that a lot of women just go through, and the levels of anxiety and depression that can happen perinatally. So perinatal is the time period around birth, so during pregnancy, and then 1 or even some people say 2 years after birth. So perinatal depression and anxiety is so common, but it's very much under-recognized. So it's just kind of the main project goal is to make sure that mental health is being screened for as much as physical health issues are during pregnancy. Because if you can recognize and quantify a problem, then you can start to tackle it. And then the personal goals were for me to become more culturally competent by going to somewhere where it's another culture. And I'm East African, I'm Black. I thought that, okay,
we're still going to come here and it's going to be
and it was like, I felt like it was such a big learning curve. So it was amazing in that sense. So it just broadened my horizons in that way. Taught me that, as I said, people can live so differently, yet still it's the same issues that you can see. And then also for me to be able to enhance my leadership skills, the skills that I needed to do in planning a project from the ground up. And
I love it. I love it. And anything that really stood out to you in terms of life in Uganda? So like a good thing that made you think, wow, like people do this here, we should do more of this in the UK. Anything that kind of springs to mind?
So I think what was really good about the project was that with the hospitals, they are really adaptable. You can think of an idea, things are just more adaptable and malleable, and you can implement change quite quickly, see how it's working, adapt it if needs be. Whereas with the NHS, there's more bureaucracy. And of course, there's pros and cons to both things. But I think that the NHS needs to be a little bit more adaptable, agile, and malleable, so that we can move with the times. So that's something I would say that I
think that's really important. And I'm a big believer in being sure. Like someone once told me, write your goals in pen, but your route in pencil.
Wow.
And I think that is like...
Sorry, just say that again. Right.
Write your goals in pen, but your route in pencil.
Period.
And it is actually and I've lived, ever since they told me that, I've kind of lived my life that way. And it kind of leads me onto a book that I know changed a lot for you around the pathless path.
Oh, she's done her research. Damn. Okay.
So the pathless path. And I haven't read it yet, but when I read the blurb, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to read this book, because in so many ways it is like a book form of that quote around not restricting yourself to the Western but Western structures of how you should kind of progress professionally, but actually following your intuition and what drives you. Is that how? Tell me a little bit about that book and how it affected you.
Pathless Path is one of my favorite books, and as you said, it did change my life, and it's made me a lot more daring in terms of So in the West or in the world, we're taught to climb this kind of corporate ladder, choose your career when you're 16, and then go into a job and then just climb up to the top. And even if you start to feel like, is this really for me? Or actually I have that interest, you should ignore that and just focus on that treadmill that you're on. Whereas the pathless path is something that is more intuitive, where you don't need to look for a work-life balance, because the work and life kind of go hand in hand, and you'll get satisfaction from both areas. So if it's that you love to travel, then you can incorporate that into your career. If it's that you want, you just kind of follow your intuitions and interests to make work a journey, and you take more of the scenic route rather than just the quickest route, and then that way you're actually going to be happier and live a career that's meant for you rather than a career that is just written for you.
I love it. Meant for you and not just written for you. I think for me, when I think about my career journey, it has absolutely been a pathless path. Like whenever I've spoken to people about my career, they're like, wow, you've done so many different things. But it's because I didn't realize that I was kind of living a pathless path, but I have in so many ways made sure that I'm doing something that really feels organic to me, and organic to where I'm at in my life. Like the other day I was listening to a podcast by Stephen Bartlett, and he was talking about some of his sponsors, and he was saying that there's this one sponsor that has been a sponsor for a long time. He was like, I'm not naming the name, but they were going to offer him like 7 figures to continue to be another sponsor for another season. But based on the direction of his life, it was the complete antithesis of what he's about now. So it could even be like, oh, it wasn't McDonald's, but I'm just saying McDonald's for lack of a better expression, or like a fast food brand. But now if you're on like a more healthier, taking care of your diet and being more intentional about what you're putting into your body, maybe a partner like that's not going to work anymore. And I think I've lived my life like that. Amazing. Like, this makes sense for me now. Let's continue on this journey. And I'm also, I don't know whether you feel the same, but like, I'm also a big believer in like, I will execute on something for as long as it feels like the right thing to execute on. If at any point it feels like, do you know what, I think I've done my bit here, I'm happy to take the new path. And I think for me, in giving myself that agency, I feel very liberated in how I live my life, because at no point do I feel like I must do this for the rest of my days. Like, I feel like I must do it for as long as it feels like this is the impact that I am called to make here. And then if the impact or circumstances change and it feels like, do you know what, I think this might be it, I give myself the agency to just choose a new path.
Amazing. No, that is so important, that we don't create prisons for ourselves. Sometimes it comes from expectations outside of us, and sometimes it comes from proving a point to ourselves. We have to think, why did I start on this journey? And if it was to make an impact, then you need to realize, okay, I've done that. Now let me allow myself to pivot. And there's no shame in that. And it's a good skill to have, to be able to leave something whilst it's still good, and also to be able to understand that, okay, maybe I thought this was right and it's no longer right, and you fail fast and pivot.
Facts. Leaving something while it's good is crucial. It's crucial, because there's an additional sense of like, you know what, I can pat myself on the back. Like, it didn't crash and burn before I had to like take it to or do something else in my life. And I guess even in thinking about things that crash and burn and like things that just throw us for a whack, periods can also be very up and down.
100.
What do you remember when you started your period?
I think I was like 15.
Okay. Oh wow, that's fairly late. Fairly. Do you remember what the experience was?
So my periods, when I started them, they became a bit, I started with just the cramping. The blood didn't come straight away. So I didn't have that like, oh my gosh,
I'm
moment.
dying.
It was just like, what's this on my knickers? And I was a bit confused actually. And it was then me and my mum went to the GP, and they're like, oh yeah, that's sometimes how periods start. It's not always the blood, it can just be a different colored discharge. So that's how mine started. And then I had painful periods, or have painful periods. And I went to the GP about them. They did do an ultrasound for me. They saw that my ovaries were fine. And then they've also like given me like different painkillers and things. But I remember when I was on those painkillers, my mom and maybe like my my family friend auntie at that time was like, no, you don't need that. Why are they making such a fuss, etc., etc. So for me, it was the other way round in terms of that maybe I had to go and the cultural expectations was just like, well, just get on with it.
Do you still experience painful periods to today?
How I've learned to manage them. So I use painkillers, and then I also use like different teas and things, and exercise and gentle stretching. And then I've been on contraception for different periods of my life. So I was on and some of them have worked okay for me, some of them have not worked that well for me, but I was on the depot for like the most of last year. So I had a break from my periods for maybe, let's say, 1 to 2 years, and that's been really helpful for me. But they're now coming back, so now what I'm trying to do is just use my teas and painkillers and stuff.
In taking the depot, what made you, were they so bad that you just didn't want a period anymore, or are you diagnosed with something? And also, do you feel like your life as a medical doctor has informed how you manage your period?
Yeah, it has influenced it, because for me personally, I don't have to go out for a diagnosis, because I know what probably is most likely, and I know how I'm going to manage them anyways. So yeah, and I think it's maybe made me less fearful around contraceptions, and perhaps also that's because of my own privilege. I'll be able to go to a doctor and talk to them on a level, and I've not gone through an experience yet where I've been dismissed
or gaslit or anything like that.
I can't separate the two, but yes, I've been able to self-manage and to be able to use the different things. And I think a lot of time people either want to go for the, I'm going to say holistic in quotation marks, because people mean natural, and they say that the natural ways versus contraception, and it feels like, oh, you have to pick one or the other. But with me, I grew up with traditional medicines. That is a part of me, and at the same time I also believe in mainstream medication, and I believe you can use both
in tandem. And some of those traditional medicines, were there any that came to light when you were in Uganda, like when you were there and you thought, oh, actually taking this in this way helps with this?
So in Uganda, that's where I discovered fenugreek.
Okay.
So fenugreek is like it's a spice that is usually used in like maybe like Indian curries, because I think with East Africa we have a lot of like Asian and Arab influence. And yeah, I was told about that can help with period pain. So my tea leaves that I mix is raspberry leaf and fenugreek.
So can we get fenugreek here?
Yeah.
From a health food market or Amazon or something like that. And what are some of its benefits?
So it's meant to be also a natural deodorizer, where it makes you smell a bit of like vanilla-y.
Yes, please. I even love that scent.
Yeah, I'm getting into vanilla because of TikTok. So it's meant to like be a natural deodorizer, and then also there's other benefit. Period pains, womb health, and stuff like that. But those are not me saying that as a doctor. That's me saying it as Jessica.
And it's important to distinguish, because people will take your word for it. On that note, do your friends see you as the group doctor? Do they treat you like the group doctor? They must.
Let's just say I've been asked all different types of questions at all the functions, and I'm like, I'm off duty. Like, we are at the barbecue. Please, let's.
I can imagine, like, oh yeah, so you know what? I've actually really been feeling, trying to get an appointment at my GP. It's taken a while. Since you're here, did it?
Yeah, and because I know that getting an appointment with a GP is so difficult, because I know my community can be so much dismissed and things like that, I will always tell them to go see a doctor, but I can give them a bit of, what to do in the meantime. Yeah, I understand where the need might come from.
Screaming. What would you say is the maddest question you've been asked outside of being at work? So if you're out socially and someone knows you're a doctor, what would you say? The way your face looks like it's gonna be absolutely crazy.
Well, you know, guys, that we take confidentiality very seriously.
True.
So let me just keep that to myself.
She said, we won't do that. Okay, noted. Noted. Okay, so now that your periods are coming back to that, now your periods are coming back, are they better? Are they worse? Are they the same?
I'm feeling the pain coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And are you taking painkillers with it as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to be one of those girls that's like, no, I'm gonna ride it. I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to give my body the reliance on the medication because I just want to be strong. And then I was like, why?
Where's your badge?
Where's my badge? Where's my bonus? Like, where's the cash prize? Like, there's no benefit to doing that.
There's no benefit, and it's a common myth that you can become reliant on painkillers. And there's something I literally told my patient on Friday, that because she said the same thing, and I said, no, with the things with the strong painkillers, we're talking about opioids, codeine, that's where we go into that territory. However, what you're taking at home is not, you can't become addicted or reliant or resistant to paracetamol, for example.
And actually, it's about just relief for the time being. And I'm learning that even when I take it, like within seconds, no, I'm wishing right now, but within, I mean, it feels quick. So like within 30 minutes, like the pain has completely subsided. And actually, I feel like I can get back on with my day. And for so long, especially doing this work, I felt like this almost added pressure of like not being the one that takes the medicine. I want to be the advocate for the holistic route. But I agree with you in that, like, once I came out of that mind frame, I was like, the two can work together. Like, you can be a holistic babe, but also need to take a tablet. Like, it's not one versus the other, and it's not one is necessarily better than the other. It's that they both work and have their own function. Exactly. And once I realised that and accepted that for myself, I no longer feel bad if I have to take it. If you had a headache, you might not like just lie there and just be in pain. You might take a tablet. And as long as it doesn't interfere with anything else in your body, to me, I'm like, I'm happy to take at this stage in my life, I'm happy to take the tablet.
And it goes back to the thing of, let's not create prisons for ourselves. Let's write the goal in pen, but the path in pencil.
Yeah.
Pain free. How is that going to get us to there? Let's do that for now. And in different times of our life, we might have different capacities for our periods and for the pain or anything like that. For example, when I was in Uganda, the reason why I stayed on the depot was because I was living in a place where we didn't always have consistent water and electricity.
Yeah.
Me personally, I couldn't go through my periods at a time when I didn't always have running water. And that also gave me a very big lesson on my privilege, because of course women are going through their periods all the time. So in different times of our lives, we may have more or less capacity for our periods.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And in thinking about that, like, that's the first thing I would think if I was going to move to somewhere where the privileges would be different. That's my first thought. Like, how will I manage my period in this place? Not even necessarily what will I eat. It's literally, I think about that part of my health first, because it's such a critical part of like how I view myself. I'm like, is this going to make my life easier? Is it going to make my period easier to manage or more difficult to manage? And if it's going to make it more difficult, how do I want to do it? Or do I need to think of a way to get around it? So it's really interesting that you mentioned that you did that because of this, because it meant that you actually just optimized what your living environment was in order to like have a comfortable experience. Yeah, that's really powerful. Actually, that's really, really powerful. And in terms of like the gender health gap, it's like a conversation that happens quite a lot. What are some of your thoughts on it, and how do you think we can decrease that gap?
So the gender health gap, let's first like define it. And I know that's something that we always talk about on the podcast, but it's the difference between the genders when it comes to access to health, treatment of health, and research into the different genders' health or illnesses. And so, for example, we know that in terms of PMS, that affects up to like 90% of people who have periods. Yet erectile dysfunction has 5 times more the research than PMS does. Or as of like 2023, only 2% of the UK's public research funding was into reproductive health research, which is just absolutely appalling.
It's appalling.
And slowly that number is coming up because we're realizing what the burden of these things like endometriosis, PCOS can be. And that's one thing in terms of when we say reduce the health gap. I'm going to say a kind of thing that might not seem related, but take your sick days and let people know why you're taking your sick days. Because how does a government with a public funding pot know what to pour their research into? It's what is causing the most lack of money in, for example, the workforce. So if they can actually see that, oh wow, lots of people are actually affected by this endometriosis PCOS thing, maybe we need to actually look into it. Everything is money. We're a public health system.
100%.
So I would say take your sick days, but of course that means that people need to get their diagnosis to be able to take their sick days because of the endometriosis and PCOS. So how we make sure that we reduce the health gap is by properly training medical students whilst they're in med school so that they can really understand these conditions and how they can show up in all different sectors. Because for example, PMS, or let's say PMDD, so premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is an extreme version of PMS, could present to me in psychiatry. It could present to the GP. It can present in so many different ways. Because these conditions affect so many different systems of our body. So I think proper training of med students and doctors, taking our sick days, and then that will lead into more research. And I believe then also, and why I'm very interested in academia and research as a Black woman, is because we need the representation in science, so that the correct questions are being asked. Science in itself is not biased, but it's only not biased if you ask it the correct questions. And it's, me as a Black woman, I'm going to come to the table with a different perspective on what needs to be researched than the next person. And that's why I love things like the the 5 times more charity workers, the Black maternity experiences report. That's amazing. And that's their strength as Black women, to be able to ask the correct questions, so we get the correct answers, so that we as doctors can then learn what we need to do.
Find long-term solutions, and solutions that actually have the cultural nuance around them, because so many of from what I understand anyway, so many of the medical solutions to problems exclude Black women's experiences, either in testing or in like being given out. So I think that 5 times more. I love those girls. And I think what they have demonstrated is the intense population and number of Black women who are affected when they're having babies.
Yes, and what you said about the making sure that we're included in the research. So that's one thing as well, is that we need to be volunteering for clinical trials. But of course that's very difficult for our community to do, because we have been let down multiple times and continue to be let down by medicine. However, we do need that involvement in clinical trials and research, because we have historically as women been treated as little men in science, whereas actually we're not just small men. We have our whole own thing going on. Our periods and our cycles even affect how we respond to medicines. And that's something you would never be able to know if we're only testing men.
Exactly. And I heard that the pill was tested on men initially.
Oh.
But they had too many side effects, which is why it was then given to women.
Oh, yeah. Of course, because men, we can't let them have headaches.
Yeah.
We can't let them have it. No, they're just little men.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And in light of some of those side effects, obviously there is a massive mental underlying thread when it comes to the effects of a menstrual cycle on a woman. Based on your expertise, and your lived experience, have you seen any synergies between the connections of mental stress and how that affects your menstrual cycle?
Wow. Yes, most definitely. So as we are going through a cycle, we have varying hormones, our estrogen and progesterone rising and falling, and that has a direct impact on how the chemicals in our brain, serotonin, dopamine, etc., work in our brains. So those have a direct impact. And then in terms of our periods, you know, being in pain, that has a direct impact on stress. And people with menstrual disorders such as PCOS and endometriosis, they have much higher rates of anxiety and depression. And, you know, it's not hard to imagine why. Just for the average menstruator, there's going to be times in the month where you feel on cloud 9. So that's usually when you are ovulating. You feel like the sexiest woman in the world.
You've got everything together. You're showing them a little bit more back, a little bit more leg, a little bit more chest, a little bit more.
Wearing less, going up more. And then, you know, during your period, when you actually are bleeding, then that's when you're going to be a little bit more in hibernation mode, and you might be also like in pain as well. So that's going to make you withdraw more. And it's just a shame because we live in a world that doesn't account for that type of cycle. We live on a 24-hour cycle rather than a 28 day. So that can also be really stressful if somebody knows that, you know, for a whole week out of 4, I don't feel myself. I'm bleeding, I'm in pain. That has real impacts on how they show up in other areas of their life. So education, work, you know, people having to take time off of school because their periods are so heavy. People are having to take time off work because they're in so much pain. And then now when they're taking those days off, they're now being pulled in for disciplinary meetings. That's just so unfair, and that's going to cause more stress. And then now if you're on a 0-hour contract and you can lose your job, your money is affected. This is how it's just a spiral.
It really is. And I often talk about the economy of the menstrual cycle because there really is like such a financial ramification on women who have gynecological concerns and disorders. And I think that is a conversation that I'm really passionate about having around just how having a disruptive period can affect your career progression. Because I think so many people don't see the dots around taking time off, having to go to a doctor's appointment. Even, for example, I was due to do some tests last week, and one of the prerequisites is that I had to be on my period in order to do the blood test. But in order to do that, my period had to come at the time I thought it was going to come. And also, like, if it was late, early, etc., and I had to be between days 2 and day 4 to do it. So in booking that, I'm like, right, okay, I need to be on this part of my menstrual phase, but also, like, I need to be able to get back to work, and I need to be, do you know what I mean? It's such a Tetris.
It's literally a Tetris. It's ridiculous. And it's just, we need menstrual leave because it's not fair. Agreed. And yes, your specialism is in the psychiatry side of things, but you obviously have such a passion for women's health. Aside from lived experiences that come from anywhere else, do you know someone that went through something that made you think, do you know what, I want to be able to advocate for you? That's a good question. Where has that come from? I think it's just come from my love of Black women. And I don't want to be cheesy in that way, but it's just, Malcolm X said, you know, the least respected, least protected group of people, and we're always looking out for others, and that takes a toll on our mental health, and, you know, having to be that strong Black woman, etc. And I know that medicine, and specifically psychiatry, has let down Black people in the past, continues to, and can especially then now let down Black women. So I think it's just naturally that my love of psychiatry and making sure that we're talking about mental illnesses in our community, and looking after my people, and then also being a woman and my love for Black women and thinking about women's health, I think it's just, again, just a natural progression, and as I said, that pathless path, and then doing that project last year was really just solidified that, because that will open up a new conversation. So I think that's why, and because I love science and research, that's something that is a growing field of psychiatry, where and I think in the future there will be what do we call it? Because now we have perinatal psychiatry, which is, as I said, the perinatal period around birth. But in the future, I believe there will be women's mental health, where we're thinking about the PMS, the PMDD, the perimenopausal, because that's something that can be misdiagnosed as bipolar, dementia,
Really?
schizophrenia. Yes, because the menopause can present in so many different ways, and menopause is something that is not talked about at all. It's just, I thought once you finish your periods, you're like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
let me breathe.
Yeah.
But no, it's
we go again.
another one.
Another one. DJ Khaled voice. Like, literally.
There's a emerging field of psychiatry called women's mental health, where there's more research going into how does our period, our fluctuating hormones during our reproductive stage, and then through the menopause, how does that affect our mental health? For example, one paper I was reading the other day, when a woman starts antidepressants in her cycle, can also even affect her response to antidepressants.
Yeah.
So that's just a very exciting field of science for me, and I hope that my future placements I'll be able to do more of that.
Yeah, I love it. And then naturally that connection has led you to content creation. What made you decide, I'm also going to do this on top of studying, on top of traveling, on top of this, on top of that?
Another one. So yes, content creation. I love making content, and it started in 2020 with the pandemic, and I was getting a lot of the same questions from my family and family friends, and I thought, okay, a lot of people are asking me the same questions, and there's a lot of misinformation and things like that. Let me try to put something online. And I started with a COVID series on YouTube, where I was just talking about COVID, addressing some common misconceptions, and then talking about being on the front line as well. I think at that time I was final year of med school.
Okay.
And then then TikTok was this thing, and my friend told me, oh, you got TikTok, you can grow from there. So then I was on TikTok, that grew, and then I started posting those stuff on Instagram, and then that grew even more. And it was actually Taraji P. Henson that reposted one of my things that I was talking about strong Black women and mental health, and that helped me just grow. So it's just taking a life of its own.
Yeah.
That's.
How do you find the time?
How do I find the time?
Are you like, okay, right, today's my content day, so I'm gonna record for like 2 hours and do content stuff, or do you like drip feed it throughout your week?
Yeah, no, I like to batch do things. So I'll batch create, I'll batch film, and then batch edit, and then I use a scheduling app. But definitely different seasons I have different levels of productivity.
Yeah. Oh, in terms of all the videos you've curated, which one do you feel like had an impact that you didn't anticipate it having?
Oh, that's such a cute question. I've never been asked that before. I think one of my favorites that had an impact that I didn't think would be my one on female friendships. It was talking about how our life as a man, your life expectancy increases when you're married, but for a woman, your life expectancy, if you're married, either stays the same or decreases. It's actually the quality of your female friendships that has an effect on your life.
Hey! Wow.
And people were really, really surprised to hear that and loved to hear it, and it resonated with a lot of people.
That is such important information. That actually for men, when they get married, their life expectancy increases, but a female's marital status doesn't actually increase her life expectancy. It's her female friendships that do that.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank God for sisterhood.
Period.
Thank God for sisterhood. That is insane.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm a core believer in sisterhood, and that is a driving factor of everything that I do.
Yeah, same. Like, I'm a big friend gal. Like, I'm gonna like my friends and want to do things with my friends and go places with my friends. Yeah. I love having friends.
Yeah, and I think that's an amazing thing of our generation now, that we can prioritize that, and we are prioritizing that. Because it really improves our quality of life, our mental health, our health, etc.
Absolutely. And good friendship is imperative. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've got so much more to talk to you about. We'd have to do a part 2 at another point. But just before we wrap, for the next guest, have you got any life advice that you would like to share, which I will share with them on the next episode?
Oh, wow. Continuity. I would say life advice.
Or a lesson you've learnt recently that you would pass on to them.
Think the pathless path. Take the pathless path. Follow your dreams, your intuitions, because you never know where it might lead you. Don't feel you need to be fixed on one road.
Okay. Great. I will tell the next person.
Okay.
I will tell the next person. Well, thank you. Where can people find you? How can people connect with you? Where can people follow your journey?
Yeah, so if they want to connect with me, you can follow me on Dr Jessica Katanga. That is Dr Jessica Katanga on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. I'm on all three. So be part of the community.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Well, thank you guys for listening to another episode of Womenstrual. I will put all the details in the show notes. But yeah, until next time. Love you. Bye.